is EPF navigating in terms of its strategy, given the challenging period of projected low growth, also low commodity prices?
The past 3 years, the VUCA world, the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, has been rearing its head on a yearly basis, and every year seems to be getting more and more challenging. So we've actually had the challenge of we have to pivot very, very quickly, right? So this is where the dichotomy comes into play. We have very long-term viewpoints, but at the same time, we're operating in a world that changes literally on a dime. So for us, we had to relook in terms of the way we do investments. The type of our assets last time, which used to promise long-term yields, so more dividend plays, or it has now become like tradable, for example. And the ones which we used to do for equities to go and bring to trade on a more shorter-term basis is now becoming more from a dividend play.
4 to 5% return so far. Can you beat that this year, or perhaps even in the next 5 years?
You know what? We will definitely aim for that, but I think you know as well as I do, times are extremely challenging. So this is why I always get into a bit of a kerfuffle with some of the media sometimes, because they like to go and compare our returns from a year-to-year basis. But I keep on reminding them, every year, especially now, on a yearly basis, things change so fast. In December last year, nobody would have thought that COVID would have come into play, right? And within the space of 3 months, from a time where we said, oh, is something interesting happening in the Far East, it's now a global phenomena and a global threat, right, to us. So I always caution our members, don't look at us from a year-by-year basis. Look at us in terms of the overall market performance for that year. So we always have an internal target of around 2 to 2.5% on a 3-year average, and that's the one that we always look for. I mean, if I were to give you a bit of context to it, like maybe more than 10 years ago or so, we used to return over 8%, right? But the market during that time was actually also returning more than 8%. So if I were to just give a ball number of 8%, you would think, wow, EPF is really performing. But if you do comparative of what was happening in that year, we were sort of like just okay, So far, the past 3 years, I think we've been outperforming our internal targets, and I think we've been outperforming what a pension fund should actually normally be returning.
You talked about how challenging it is to compete for assets overseas. Right now, about 30% of your portfolio is invested overseas. What are you looking at? Are you looking at pumping more overseas, and what kind of numbers are you looking at?
I don't think it's become a question of choice, Haslinda, because the rate of growth for our fund is outgrowing the rate of growth of the economic growth of Malaysia. So whether we like it or not, we have to start looking overseas. To a certain extent, I've said this quite a few times. There's also challenges in terms of becoming too big, because for us to actually bring the funds out of Malaysia would actually have a real impact on the economic basis of Malaysia, right? So we also have to start looking into investing back into our country. But the big question then is into what type of asset classes. Moving forward, we are looking more and more into ESG type of assets and investments, specifically also Sharia type of investments, because as you know, Malaysia, majority of our population are Muslims, and we need to go and follow Sharia principles, which is very much in line with ESG principles.
So how much more are you looking at putting into ESG as well as Sharia investment? Is there a figure you can give us?
As much as possible. The big problem is at this point of time, especially for Sharia compliant products, is that there's not that much out there, because and I think you need to look in terms from a global perspective. Sharia products at this point of time is not something that is in the mainstream, right? It's much easier for global investors to go into the normal type of investment products. So for us, it's not a question of whether we want to or not. We definitely want to, but it's the availability of products out there. So for those of you who are actually into that sphere, please come and see us, because we'll be very, very interested to talk to you.